60th session of the subsidiary body. That's a meeting that's happening in Bonn. This specific dialogue will take place on June 5th, and it's going to be a chance to bring together experts and country representatives to talk about climate change impacts in mountains and their transboundary impacts, showcase different solutions for mountain areas, and look at how to accelerate action at different scales. So looking at building capacity building, financial mechanisms, and things like that. So we're all very excited that this is coming up soon. Next up, the Nairobi Work Program decided a couple of years ago that they would be introducing a thematic workspace on mountains. So the Nairobi Work Program, it's a network that takes place under the UNFCCC, and the goal is to have different partners, so countries, but also NGOs and civil society, to share knowledge and use this knowledge to scale up action for climate change adaptation in countries. So now they're going to have a dedicated thematic space for mountains, which is really exciting for all of us. And this is a priority work area of theirs for 2024. So keep an eye out for different calls for inputs for this. Next up, also at COP28, it was decided on the text of the Global Goal on Adaptation, and it did include mountain ecosystems as an ecosystem of importance they'd be looking at. So we're expecting that there will also be a call for indicators related to adaptation specifically in mountain ecosystems coming out in the coming months. So keep an eye out too in the event that there is something that can be contributed there. Next up, in case you didn't know, we are currently in the 5 years of action for the development of mountain regions. This is 2023 to 2027. This was decided at the UN General Assembly and essentially is bringing together countries and people to enhance the awareness of the international community of all of the problems specific to mountain countries, and to give some new inspiration for the international community to just step it up and work on mountain issues further. So this is happening now. There is a task force that's being convened by the UN FAO, but if you would like to get involved, the Scientific and Knowledge Advisory Committee of the Mountain Partnership is open to individuals, researchers, practitioners, all working on different mountain issues. And they do have meetings about quarterly where they do discuss ways to get involved and cooperate for the 5 years of action. So the links here, hopefully you get the PowerPoint shared with you at the end of the meeting. And finally, coming up in 2024, so December 11th is International Mountain Day, and they've decided for the topic for this year. So it's going to be Mountain Solutions for a Sustainable Future, Innovation, Adaptation, Youth, and Beyond. So there's a little bit of something for everyone, and hopefully there will be lots of nice events taking place as well. So for the next slide, I did just want to highlight a couple more things that are coming up, not in 2024, but just to keep an eye out for. So 2025 is the International Year for Glaciers Preservation. This international year is being coordinated by the WMO and UNESCO, and there will be some buildup and some momentum for that. So if you'd like to get involved, keep an eye out for events or other ways coming up. 2026 is then the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists. So if that's more up your alley, there will be another opportunity to get involved there. That's going to be at least co-organized by the FAO. Next up, just wanted to mention the WMO's High Mountain Summit. Back in 2019, they had their first High Mountain Summit, which is really focusing on developing a roadmap to bringing science-based knowledge and information systems together so that way we can work on mountain issues. So we expect something similar for the next one, which is anticipated in 2026, but more information to come there. I also wanted to mention that at the end of the 5 years of action will be the second Bishkek Global Mountain Summit. So we do expect some ways to get involved there too. And now, just to inform people in case anyone was unaware, in the GCF strategic plan for 2024 to 2027, mountains have been incorporated as a climate critical sensitive ecosystem. So what this means is that we expect that some of the financial mechanisms are looking at projects specifically in mountain areas, and that kind of pitching projects and different activities as mountain relevant and mountain important might be a good way actually to tap into some of that funding as well for future calls. So keep an eye out if there's any way to get involved there. I'm sure there's lots more events happening that are relevant for mountain areas, but I just wanted to give a little bit of an overview for the global aspect of it. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Alex. It was such a great overview of all the exciting opportunities coming up in 2024 and beyond. Hopefully that we can advance the mountain and climate change agenda in these opportunities. So now we will move on to a series of speed talks. And also if anyone has any questions for our speakers, including Alex, please put them in the chat or keep them in mind, and we'll have a session on this at the end. So first, I would like to hand over to Saskia Flores, who works at CONDESAN, and who will be giving an introduction to the regional dialogues for the integrated management of Andean mountain ecosystems. So Saskia, are you there and ready to present?
Thank you very much, Kate. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here today. My name is Saskia Flores. I work for CONDESAN, which is an NGO that works for the sustainable management of social ecosystems in the Andes. In this big presentation, I am going to share with you our experience developing the regional dialogues for the integrated management of Andean mountain ecosystems within the Adaptation at Altitude program in the Andes and the Conectate A+ network. These regional dialogues are 2-hour virtual meetings where professionals from different fields come together to exchange ideas and experiences on the sustainable management of Andean mountains. Next slide, please. So through the years, we have felt the need to have continuous spaces where people that work in the mountains in different areas and disciplines can share key information to improve their actions and decisions. It is important to put together practitioners, decision makers, researchers, farmers, women, young people, and give them the chance to learn and share about their latest and most innovative experiences in the management of high altitude ecosystems. Also, we know how useful it can be to replicate and escalate experiences, but this can only be possible through networking and acquiring a regional vision of the Andes as a whole landscape. Finally, bringing together different capacities and skills and multiple visions of our very diverse mountain ecosystems in the Andes can allow us to build stronger ideas for our resilience towards local and global changes. Next, please. So this is the idea behind our regional dialogues in the Andes. The structure is pretty much the same as the meetings of the Adaptation at Altitude Knowledge Network. We have always a main talk to set the basic ideas and the state of the art of a specific topic. Then 3 flash talks to share case studies from different countries, and a final flash talk with a regional point of view. We end the dialogue with a participatory discussion and reflexive conclusions. We repeat this mechanic every year or 2, always covering 3 main topics: integrated knowledge management, governance and participation, conservation, restoration, and production. Next, please. Here are some examples of previous dialogues we have had in the past. Looking at these agendas, you will notice that we include experts in different disciplines and from different Andean countries and also from another continents. Next, please. In this particular example on governance and participation, we included the view of government officials, but also those of civil society represented by NGOs and local communities. In addition, in this dialogue, we took the opportunity to present the roadmap of the Andean Mountain Initiative and to comment on the exchange experiences we have had with the Alpine Convention. Next, please. We have had 2 editions of these regional dialogues so far, with 60 plus participants in every virtual event. We are continuously feeding through this initiative our network, reaching more than 1,800 members with our newsletters and knowledge products. It is important to point out that after each cycle of dialogues, we come out with a policy brief. The policy brief of our last round of dialogues is one of our most downloaded documents of our website. So we are very happy with that. Next, please. We really hope to partially contribute through our dialogues to these big goals. Practitioners designing projects incorporating the latest and most innovative knowledge and experiences, decision makers designing evidence-based policies at all scales and promoting science-based governance, increasing South-South collaboration with researchers and practitioners networking. Next, please. Our 2024 cycle is still in progress. I take this opportunity to insert here a little commercial and invite you all to the 3rd and last dialogue of this year. We will be sharing experiences from Bolivia, Ecuador, and Peru to discuss conservation, restoration, and sustainable production. This will take place on May 9. Next, please. Well, before concluding this presentation, I would like to acknowledge the valuable contribution of the organizations you see here, which make the development of these regional dialogues possible. On the right side, you can see in the screen the names of the team behind these dialogues, and I would like to acknowledge each one of them as well. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Saskia. These events sound really, really interesting. And I've just shared a link to the upcoming one on the 9th of May on conservation. If anyone's interested in attending that or getting involved, please check that out. And now we will turn to Alex from the Mountain Research Initiative, who will introduce GEO Mountains and upcoming opportunities to get involved there. So Alex, over to you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm Alexandrine Massot, and I work at the Mountain Research Initiative as a scientific project officer. So today I will give a short presentation on what is GEO Mountains, our latest activities, and also how you can get involved in our future activities. Oops, sorry, I changed the slide. So to start, GEO Mountains is the global network for observation and information in mountains environments. It is an initiative from GEO, the Group on Earth Observation, since 2016, and it is led by the MRI and the National Research Council of Italy. So GEO Mountains seeks to connect individuals, institutions, and mountain observation networks to enhance the discoverability, the accessibility, and the usability of a wide range of data and information which is pertinent to mountain, both in situ as well as remotely sensed. We are working with multiple themes or discipline, as it is illustrated in the graph on the right side of the slides. So GEO Mountain is supported by the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation under the outcome 1 of Adaptation at Altitude. So to give a little overview of our past activities under the phase 1 of Adaptation at Altitude, we conducted 5 regional workshops last year in the priority region of the program, which is the Central Asia, the Hindu Kush Himalaya, the East Africa, the Caucasus, and the Andes. You can find all reports, so I guess the slides will be shared afterwards, so you can find all reports in the links, which are just published now. We also contribute to several MRI working groups, for example, the MRI Elevation Dependent Climate Change Working Group, with, for example, the development of the Unified High Elevation Platform, the UHAP concept. But we also work on a general basis on the development and the regular maintenance of our inventories. So we have an in-situ inventory and a general inventory. We also launched the Small Grants program last year, which will be conducted this year again. And we have funded 10 projects via this program last year. You can find also all the outcomes of the program on the link. Finally, we work in a general way on communication and outreach projects. So we had Mountains Uncovered series and also a policy brief, which was published last year. And we also communicate many news and events through our mailing, the GEO Mountains mailing list, but also through the MRI Global Newsletter, which I invite all of you to subscribe if you're not already in it. Then what I would like to present today on how you can get involved is first we will have a general meeting the 22 May at 2 CEST, and this will be an online meeting. The idea of this general meeting that we held usually twice a year is to give a little overview of GEO Mountains and go a bit more in details in our past activities, but we will also have 2 community updates, and we will take a lot of time in this meeting to really discuss the future activities of GEO Mountains as well as our task group. So here I just put on the slide an overview of the task group, which are still under development. But the idea of this meeting is really to discuss all of this task group and also to hear your views if you have interest in other task groups. We are really open to discuss about this during this meeting. So if you're interested to engage a bit more in GEO Mountains, you can scan the QR code, which is here, and participate to our next general meeting. And finally, I would also like to present the small grants call, which is open since the 15th April this year, and it's ongoing until the 3rd of June. It is a call for project proposal that explicitly explore mountain monitoring data and information. And this year, the proposal, we encourage proposals that are included in the International Years of Glacier Preservation. And also we encourage the proposal which includes the 5 priority regions. So the Andes, East Africa, Indo-Kush, Himalaya, Caucasus, and Central Asia. We will fund in total 10 projects up to 10,000 Swiss francs each. So the key dates for this Small Grants Call is the webinar on the 6th of May, which my colleague James will give. It's at 2, and you will have the opportunity to ask all of the questions that you might have. So if you're interested in submitting a proposal for the small grants, please register also to the webinar, and the deadline for the proposal will be on the 3rd of June. So you can also scan the QR if you're interested in participating, or the link will be shared afterwards. Many thanks for your attention and for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Alex. It's great to see the kind of range of topics that are covered by GEO Mountains and all the different ways people can get involved. If anyone is interested, obviously feel free to reach out to Alex and GEO Mountains, but also we have a lot of GEO Mountains resources on our Adaptation Altitude website, so do go and explore those as well. Now we are going to move on to the Hindu Kush Himalaya region, where Babar Khan from ICIMOD will be discussing activities that focus on strengthening the science policy interface. So over to you, Babar.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, yeah? We can see you.
Great. For those who have not been to Himalayas, let me show a picture of the Himalayas from the sky. Could you please run the second slide? Thank you. This is the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, a global asset we call it, because it's known for its unique cultures. Ansgar have been here in parts, he knows. For unique cultures said because more than 1,000 languages are being spoken in this region. Rich biodiversity, because 4 of 36 global biodiversity hotspots are partly covered in this region, and more importantly, the largest reserves of ice and snow outside North and South Pole. So together, these 3 characteristics make the Hindu Kush Himalaya region a global asset. Next slide, please. The region, as per the recent studies, particularly by ICIMOD and other partners, the snow and ice reserves are melting faster than the past. Next, please. Many of these risks, just like resources, are transboundary because particularly the impacts and risks, they originate in one region, but then transcend and cascade. Some of them cascade literally to the other parts of the landscapes, affecting the whole region in one or the other way. To address these, ICIMOD adopted 4 different approaches. One was to establish a regional platform to bring together partners on that to discuss their regional issues, transboundary issues, and identify solutions for urgent collective action. Second was the science policy interface, because often the hardcore science published in scientific literature is seldom used by policymakers because of its language and difficulty to understand. So ICIMOD suggested an approach where the policymakers and researchers could sit together, discuss the scientific reasons for the issues, and listen to the policymakers for their policy relevant knowledge needs, and then generate that information to help the policymakers address the issues effectively. Third was to bring the mountain context to the regional and global forums, because we feel that Hindu Kush Himalaya still needs some attention, just like other mountain regions of the world. So I'm thankful to Adaptation at Altitude partners for making this voice bit stronger, and eventually I hope they will be strong enough to convey our voice to the global decision makers. Fourth and last approach is to increase investment on climate action, but more so for sustainable development in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. My talk today is more focused on science policy approach. Next, please. Science policy approach, as I said earlier, is a platform endeavor provided by ICIMOD to the scientists and policymakers to sit together and discuss their issues, generate the policy relevant evidence, and more importantly, use it in making informed policies. Learning from the past, we decided to organize national level science policy dialogues before we go into the regional level science policy dialogues on transboundary issues, because the topics, the issues genuinely identified by the most relevant partners at the national level can only realistically contribute to the discussions at the regional forum. I mean, the right issues identified and raised by the right people at the regional level can really help you identify solutions to address them. So before going to regional science policy dialogues, we thought to start national science policy dialogue with consultations to identify the issues and needs of the policy makers in terms of gaps in the available knowledge and science to address the emerging issues. We have planned 3 national level science policy dialogues up to June this year. And then we have a couple of more in the pipeline to go ahead till December. We are also organizing, but this is a demand-based science policy dialogue from the World Bank and the government of Bhutan to organize a sub-regional science policy dialogue on air quality management also, while the national science policy dialogues are more focused on nature-based solutions addressing DRR, livelihood, and water-related issues in the region. Next, please. Now, what we will discuss and extract is the key recommendations or information from the National Science Policy Dialogues will be taken to the Regional Science Policy Forum where apart from the regional stakeholders and partners, we will be bringing international experts and partners. Last year, we had a regional science policy forum on cryosphere. And in 2026, we are planning to organize again a regional science policy dialogue on NBS for the mountains. So all these recommendations will be carried forward to the Regional Science Policy Forum. And the final recommendations from the Regional Science Policy Forum will be taken forward to the Ministerial Summit. While at the same time, some of these recommendations will be shared back with the countries and the strategic partners there to address, to use them in their national level policy and planning processes. But one of the key areas, key channels to take these recommendations forward will be the Ministerial Summit. And Ministerial Summit this year is planned for September 2024, but this will mostly be focused on the recommendations of the last year's Science Policy Forum on cryosphere. But as a preparation, we will prepare the summary of all national science policy dialogues to be presented to the Regional Science Policy Forum in the next year. So once these are presented to the Ministerial Summit, after agreement and consensus will issue a declaration for the regional member countries to work together urgently on these high priority issues. So this is our approach, and accordingly we have planned these national science policy dialogues and one on air quality as a sub-regional science policy dialogue. Apart from this, in September, we are going to organize the second Ministerial Summit. I'm really thankful to Alpine Convention, UNEP, Mountain Division, and other colleagues for their support and help to take these things forward, particularly the recommendations for the Ministerial Summit. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Babar. And it's great that you are highlighting the importance of a regional and transboundary perspective in adaptation as well. It's very important. So now we will move on to our last speed talk by Ansgar from UNEP, who will be introducing the online knowledge platform Mountains Connect. And just a quick reminder, as I hand over to Ansgar, if anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat and we will move on to them after this. So over to you, Ansgar.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you everyone for joining the Knowledge Network meeting. It's the first time that I connect to this group, and I find it really great that we are able to connect from the Andes with Saskia to all the way to the Hindu Kush Himalaya. That's really great. So since there's many people that I haven't recognized, it would also be interesting to know which mountain areas you work on. I don't know if you want to put it in the chat. I would find it really interesting to know your expertise as well. I know that Carolyn posted that you're working in Nepal, so that's great. So my name is Ansgar Fellendorf. I work at the United Nations Environment Program, and we have a mountains team that is hosted in Ecosystems Division in Nairobi, but our team is also mostly based in Vienna. And under Adaptation at Altitude, we work on the regional level in the South Caucasus and in East Africa. However, I'm not going to talk about this today, but yeah, we support their science policy platforms, mostly also aiming at policy stakeholders in the Ministries of Environment. Now I'm going to talk very briefly, and I'm going to put the timer, about the Mountains Connect platform or framework, because as you already mentioned, Kate, and also Babar, the climate change impacts in mountains are mostly transboundary. So I think we have plenty of experiences, be it floods starting in one country leading to another country, or bark beetle infestations in mountain forests in the Carpathians, or drought. You name all the climate risks, they're often affecting a whole mountain range. That's why at UNEP we support regional governance. We're also hosting the Secretariat of the Carpathian Convention, the Alpine Convention, the second mountain convention. And next slide, please. And we're really grateful to the Adaptation at Altitude program for having allowed us to work on the interregional level. So really together with a lot of partners, and several of them here on the call, to bring together mountain regions to exchange the challenges, but of course also importantly solutions and the regional governance arrangements that they have, be it a convention, be it a dialogue, be it science policy events. Really a lot to learn across the mountain realm, you could say. And you can see on the slide a picture, a group photo, which was not quite 2 years ago, but almost, in Vienna, where we put together a lot of the mountain governors from Andes, Hindu Kush, Himalaya, East Africa, Caucasus, Alps, and Carpathians to learn in an interactive format. So through a serious game, you can see the map of the Tamla mountain range on the slide with 5 fictive countries. And I will briefly also touch up on this when sharing my screen. In preparation for this workshop, we, together with the University of Geneva, created the Mountains Connect website. And if you allow, I will briefly share the screen. So if you go on mountains-connect.org, you can find information about governance dimensions for mountains. So for example, you might be interested in how do you define a mountain range for governance. Then you would click on territoriality. And we created videos together with the University of Geneva, where you can see the faces and hear the voices of the people working on governance in mountains. So, okay, it's very slow now, but we hope you find this a useful resource to also see and hear some of the people who work on these issues. Then we have information on specific mountain ranges. So let's say you work on the Caucasus, then you can find history, but also links and resources on regional governance in the Caucasus. You can find the summary of territoriality and the 7 aspects of mountain range governance, a timeline, and additional resources for all these mountain ranges. So Alps, Andes, Carpathians, Caucasus, Central Asia, East Africa, Hindu Kush, Himalaya, and Pyrenees. And I already mentioned the serious game simulation. So we uploaded all the materials free of charge. And we're really happy if someone would be interested to reenact or replay this game. We did it in 1.5 days, but it could also be in 1 day. So you can find all the materials of this serious game online. You can download it, coaching timeline, country boards, and so on. And we found it a really useful tool to learn very actively and interactively about the importance of regional cooperation in mountains. And just as a last item, you can also find on this website a very recent policy brief that we worked on with CONDESAN, Alpine Convention, Cooperación Convention, and UNEP, based on a study visit of the Andean Mountain Initiative to the Cooperación Alpine Convention bodies last year. And you can really find a lot of updated learnings and knowledge on regional governance there. I will stop sharing the screen. So I think in a nutshell, we are really happy if there's an interest in the regional governance in mountains. Updates to the Mountains Connect website, please feel free to reach out. Please watch the videos, get to know the people virtually who work on mountain range governance. And also if you have questions about the governance simulation in mountains, if you want to play it, I don't know, with your colleagues, depending on where you work, peers, students, whatever, that would be, of course, also great since the material is there. Upcoming opportunities, apart from that, are, of course, many of the initiatives that Alex mentioned in the beginning. We'll also host another Mountains Connect workshop next year, which unfortunately, due to limits, we have to do up on invitation only. But if you're interested in the concept or approach, of course, please let us know. So yeah, you already went to the learnings slide. I think the slides will be shared. Yeah, the barriers for regional collaboration and governance we have identified on that slide. Of course, you can read them later. I think really the lack of exchange platforms is something quite strong that we found. And of course, we are happy that these initiatives, such as under the UNFCCC, the Nairobi Work Program, but also the Adaptation at Altitude Program, start to fill that gap and address these barriers. And yeah, now to not spend too much time with me talking and hearing the discussion and from you, I'll hand over back to you, Kate.